Hello everybody, and welcome once again to the Church of the Most High. This is Nickelbag speaking on this St. Valentine's Day, February 14th, 2026. It is a Saturday, Shabbat Shalom, and we are going to begin our program as we always do with a reading from the book of Proverbs. There are 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs. There are 31 days in a typical month, apart from this month of February. So if you divide it into a chapter a day, you are much wiser at the end of a month and a little bit smarter by the time we're finished the program. We read out of the Authorized King James Version of the Bible, the Old English Version. If you have trouble understanding the Old English Version, I do recommend you get a New English Version and compare the two side by side with the goal of eventually making the transition completely to the Old English, because the Old English is indeed the most correct form we have in the English language. It is the most accurate, though some of the words we don't use in everyday life anymore, and some of the way they phrase the sentences are a little different than the way we do it now. When compared to the original Hebrew text and the original Greek text, these are the closest we got. Back in 1611, old King James spared no expense making sure that his people had the best of the best product, because partly because he was trying to outdo the Catholic Church, and he succeeded. He got there first, and this is the one I used for many reasons, that being one of them. First come, first serve, and it is the most accurate we have. That said, of course, ideally you would learn Hebrew and learn Greek and be able to read the original text in the original language. But even for somebody using it as a second language, some of the meanings are lost, as opposed to somebody who spoke that from the time they were an infant. But without any further explanation or any kind of spiel here, we're going to get into Proverbs. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The book of the Proverbs of the Kings of Israel, chapter 14. Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish plucketh it down with her hands. He that walketh in his uprightness feareth Jehovah Allah, but he that is perverse in his ways despises him. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox. A faithful witness will not lie, but a false witness will utter lies. A scorner seeketh wisdom and findeth it not, but knowledge is easy unto him that understandeth. Go from the presence of a foolish man when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge. The wisdom of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor. The heart knoweth his own bitterness, and a stranger doth not intermeddle with his joy. The house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish. There is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. Even in laughter the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that mirth is heaviness. The backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself. The simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. A wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool rageth and is confident. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The evil bow before the good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. The poor is hated even of his own neighbor, but the rich hath many friends, quote unquote. He that despiseth his neighbor sinneth, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. Do they not err that devise evil? But mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good. In all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. The crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. A true witness delivereth souls, but a deceitful witness speaketh lies. In the fear and respect of Jehovah Allah is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. The fear of Jehovah Allah is a fountain of life to depart from the snares of death. In the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in the lack of people is the destruction of the prince. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly. A sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. He that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his Maker, but he that honoureth him hath mercy on the poor. The wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous hath hope in his death. Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. Righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. The king's favor is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him that causeth shame. And once again, that was the book of Proverbs, chapter 14. We're going to go back here, and when I said the rich hath many friends, quote unquote, I added the quote unquote around the word friends there, in case you weren't so sure. That's not in the original text. I put that in there to make the point that the rich might have many friends, but are they really his friend? We just read a few days back, if you remember, in the book of Ecclesiasticus about a bunch of friend type people that like ain't really going to be around if things go bad. So that's something to keep in mind. But hey, while they're there, while you got the money, enjoy them while you got them, and get close as you can to them, because that's the only way they're going to be there when you fail or when things go sour, is if they do have a close personal bond with you. That said, we have a lot of good wisdom there. Most of it's self-explanatory. I do have to go to the end here where it says, righteousness exalteth the people, righteousness exalteth the nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. You know, this nation of the United States of America was a great nation for a while, despite the fact that what you may think about Freemasonry or the founding fathers and their mingled faith of, you know, mysticism and things like that, the average citizen of this country was a good, God-fearing Christian person, and that is what propelled our nation into greatness and caused it to thrive amongst the other nations of the world. But right now we face a very big problem. We face a huge reproach. Our people here do, and it's called pedophilia. It's called child molestation and child abuse. What the people who built this nation believed and the way they lived their lives pleasing God has nothing to do with us now today. The people that founded this country and the people that carried it through the Industrial Revolution and throughout the Civil War and all these other conflicts and all these other great achievements have nothing to do with the people here today who allow their children to be fucked and molested and beaten and butchered up with only a slap on the fucking wrist. Back out into the fucking world to do it again, to cause your children to live in fear. paying for them when they go to jail for a year, if that, to get life-saving medicine, food, you name it. It is a reproach, all right, and it is a reproach that Jehovah Allah will not stand for. I'm going to give the warning right now, I guess, since we're here. There is a volcano underneath Yellowstone National Park. A super volcano, as the scientific geological term labels it, and it is over 100 years due to erupt. It's overdue to erupt. And because of this, the pressure underneath of it keeps getting bigger and surmounting bigger and bigger, like a zit that you should have popped but became an abscess. And this keeps swelling and swelling, and eventually this will blow. And it will destroy at least 20% of the continent when it does out west. And the rest of the continent will suffer from the fallout, from the ashes, from the fire and brimstone. Old school, Old Testament shit. You better fucking believe it. Look it up. Google it. The only way that this is ever going to stop is by the power of Jehovah Allah. The only way Jesus is going to agree to do anything for us is if we agree to take care of our children. You know what Jesus said about people that hurt children? It would be better if a millstone were tied around their neck. It would be better if a giant boulder were tied around their neck and they were thrown into the water than if he got their hands on them. Look it up. Google it. Meanwhile, we fucking give them food and clothing and save their life with medicine for insulin and heart problems. You people ought to be fucking ashamed of yourself using the teachings of Christ to defend people who fuck kids. What are you, fucking stupid? You've been warned again, plainly. Take care of the fucking problem. It is incumbent on our elected leadership, who we entrusted with our safety and security and the safety and security of our children, to clean this fucking problem up. And if they do not, it will be bad. Now we're going to move into our next reading. Our next reading is from the book of Psalms. We're at Psalm number 8 today. I do want to iterate here that this cycle, the chronological order that the readings progressed by from day to day was set in motion here. This particular cycle was set in motion a couple years ago. The Lord gave me this cycle and put it in play. It started with what anybody else would call me opening to a random passage in Psalms. And that was that. That's where we started. Now, the Proverbs was a little different because we go by the day of the calendar month. So it started on the day of the month. But all the other readings were just open up and randomly that, and that was that. It wasn't as random as it may sound because Jehovah Allah has control over this. And knowing this, I went ahead and did it the way he instructed me. And of course, it still continues to reflect reality. The readings not only oftentimes reflect each other, the reading in the Psalms or the reading in the Proverbs, reflecting what is spoken in the Quran. There's also reflections in daily life out in the outside world. The latest example here, it was the Super Bowl party. There was a Super Bowl here in the United States on Sunday, big celebration, watching a football game. Everybody gets together, celebrates. And the days leading up to it, the 2 days prior, Friday and Saturday, the book of Ecclesiasticus, which we'll get to in a few minutes, was an instruction on how to throw a party and be successful, to where people want to come back and talk about it and how great a time they had. and also how to behave at a party, how to act right so that people want to invite you back. And when they go home, they can talk about how cool you were or how great it was to be around you. That's just the latest example. And every day we continue to see more and more, and bigger and more interesting, more miraculous. There was a passage in the book of Proverbs the other day that spoke about wisdom. It was wisdom personified as a female, the Lord's confidant and companion, telling us that even before everything was created, she was with human beings. Her delights were with human beings, the sons of men. Well, how can this be if everything wasn't created yet? Well, when we got to the Quran, the very first line was a question, a rhetorical question. Was there ever a time when human beings was not a thing that was remembered? And if you had to answer the rhetorical question, the answer was no, because we just read in Proverbs that even before creation, we were remembered. God was with us. Wisdom was with us. That's just one deep metaphysical example of how these passages reflect each other. I guess the latest one actually was yesterday when the reading from Ecclesiasticus taught us to go to the doctor, using the rare biblical term physician. The term physician is very rarely used in the Bible at all. And that particular passage taught us to go to the doctor, pray beforehand, make sure we're acting right, make sure we're walking righteously, donate some things to the poor, give to the church, and then go to the doctor and give ourselves to them and their instruction. Make sure you go to a good doctor, a faith-based doctor. I'm not talking about a miracle like fucking hallelujah, touch you on the head and you're healed doctor. I'm talking like a doctor who practices medicine but has faith in God, is a spiritual type person. Those are the ones that are going to get the best success with, that are going to heal you properly. Same when it comes to psychologists and psychiatrists. And then we read in the New Testament gospel, which we'll get into, the book of Mark, how the woman who had an issue with blood, an elderly woman who was going to doctors for years, 12 years, went to all different doctors and none of them cured her. Probably because they were witch doctors, frauds, fake faith healers, you name it. And if the ones that did actually practice some kind of legit science probably just had no real faith in the real God. Finally, she went to Jesus, and just by touching him, her faith made her whole and she was healed. Now, that's a true doctor right there. But so that passage was reflected in the other passage. And again, like I said, that word physician is used very rarely in the Bible, and to the point where, like, if you see it twice in a day in two separate readings, you've hit the spiritual lottery. So let's get into our reading from Psalms. I just wanted to reiterate that because I'm told to, and it validates what we do here in the warning, because that is the most important part of all this right now, is the warning. And I want you to know that it's coming from a legitimate source. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The book of Psalms, Psalm number 8. To the chief musician upon Gittith, a psalm of David. O Jehovah Allah, our Lord, how excellent is thy name in all the earth, who has set thy glory above the heavens. Out of the mouth of babes and sucklings hast thou ordained strength because of thine enemies, that thou mightest still the enemy and the avenger. When I consider thy heavens, the work of thy fingers, the moon and the stars which thou hast ordained, what is man that thou art mindful of him, and the son of man that thou visitest him? For thou hast made him a little lower than the angels, and hast crowned him with glory and honor. Thou madest him to have dominion over the works of thy hands. Thou hast put all things under his feet, all sheep and oxen, yea, and the beasts of the field, the fowl of the air and the fish of the sea, and whatsoever passes through the paths of the seas. O Jehovah Allah, our God, how excellent is thy name in all the earth. Great amount of praise there. That is the 8th Psalm from the King James Version of the Bible, and it is just a beautiful description of God's beauty, God's majesty, God's power over everything, and the power that he's given us as human beings, the favor he shows on us, reiterating that we have power over the animals. We can train a dog to go and get us whatever the hell it is we want him to get us. We can get our dog to bring beers back to us from the refrigerator. There isn't any other animal alive with the ability to do that I'm aware of. So, well, the dog, but I mean to train the dog. There isn't any other animal alive that I'm aware of that is able to train another animal to do what it wants it to do. The Lord has given us great power, and with it comes great responsibility. So we're going to get into the reading from the Quran. Our reading from the Quran today is Surah number 82. We read from the new translation of the Quran by M.A.S. Abdel Halim from Oxford Press. I believe it is the most correct translation one can acquire in the English language, and that is partly because of the form that it takes. It is written in paragraph format as opposed to other translations that are in column form. Now, the Arabic Quran is usually sung when it's recited, and it's very beautiful. It rhymes, and when someone has a good voice for it as well, it's just an awe-inspiring thing to behold and to bear witness to and to hear. But when you're trying to read that in English and actually understand what was being said, what the message was, it becomes difficult to read that in column format when the subjects get chopped up from line to line and jump back and forth because of the poetic format of things, and it's very hard to follow. So this gentleman here took the time and put it in paragraph form where the average English speaker can comprehend the material fairly easily. And so that's why I read out of it. And so we're going to do that right now. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful, the Quran, Surah number 82, Al-Infitar, the breaking. When the sky breaks, when the stars are scattered, when the seas burst forth, when graves turn inside out, each soul will know what it has done and what it has left undone. You, human being, what has lured you away from your generous Lord who created you, shaped you, proportioned you in whatever form he chose? Yet you still take the judgment to be a lie. Over you stand watchers, noble recorders who know what you do. The good will live in bliss, and the wicked will burn in the fire. They will enter it on the day of judgment, and they will find no escape. What will explain to you what the day of judgment is? Yes, what will explain to you what the day of judgment is? The day when no soul will be able to do anything for another. On that day, command will belong to Jehovah Allah. Amen, amen. And that was the Quran, Surah number 82, Al-Infitar, the breaking, reiterating the fact that we will come before our Lord God for judgment. And on that day, he will be the only one with the ability to command anybody to do anything, including a dog to bring a beer. We're going to lose that power momentarily if we ever get it back during that judgment. He's going to take it all back. He already has it, but we're going to see whose it is to take and to give. So that said, we're going to get into the next book. The book of Ecclesiasticus is our fourth reading. It is widely considered what we would call an apocryphal book. It is typically not included in most King James versions of the Bibles. It's definitely not included in any of the NIV or the Christian Standard translations or any of the modern English translations. None of them have it in there. The only ones that do have it in there are the Catholic translations. They have it woven throughout with the rest of the apocryphal books in the historical chronologic order in which they were written. However, if you are reading a King James version of the Bible, the Episcopalians and the Anglicans do include these books, and it's a collection of books right smack in between the New Testament and the Old Testament. Again, they're hard to find in some places, but you can order them online, and you can also go to different Bible apps and pull these books up. But you're gonna, if you're following along with the normal King James version that somebody might have given you or you might have picked up yourself, you're not going to have this book with you. So you may want to go online and follow along, or print one out. You can always just print one out online for free if you don't want to buy or can't afford to purchase a hard copy of it. That said, it is titled Wisdom in the Catholic versions, or Ben Sirach. Ben not being the gentleman who wrote its first name. Ben is the Hebrew term and the Arabic term for son. His first name was Joshua, which also translates Yeshua or Jesus. So many of the King James versions call it the Wisdom of Jesus Ben Sirach. All that said, it is a book of wisdom that is extremely informative and extremely filled with blessings. So we're going to get right into that. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful, the book of the wisdom of Yeshua ben Sirach, the son of Sirach, chapter number 39. He that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies. He will keep sayings of the renowned men, and where subtle parables are, he will be there also. He will seek out the secrets of grave sentences, and be conversant in dark parables. He shall serve among great men, and appear before princes. He will travel through strange countries, for he hath tried the good and the evil among men. He will give his heart to resort early to the Lord that made him, and will pray before the Most High, and will open his mouth in prayer, and make supplication for his sins. When the great Lord will, he shall be fulfilled. When the great Lord will, he shall be filled with the spirit of understanding. He shall pour out wise sentences, and give thanks unto the Lord in his prayer. He shall direct his counsel in knowledge, and in his secrets shall he meditate. He shall show forth that which he hath learned, and shall glory in the law of the covenant of the Lord. Many shall commend his understanding, and so long as the world endureth, it shall not be blotted out. His memorial shall not depart away, and his name shall live from generation to generation. Nations shall show forth his wisdom, and the congregation shall declare his praise. If he die, he shall leave a greater name than 1,000, and if he live, he shall increase it. Yet have I more to say, which I have thought upon, for I am filled as the moon at the full. Hearken unto me, ye holy children, and bud forth as a rose growing by the brook of the field. And give ye a sweet savour as frankincense, and flourish as a lily, and send forth a smell, and sing a song of praise. Bless Jehovah Allah in all his works. Magnify his name, and show forth his praise with the songs of your lips, and with harps. And in praising him ye shall say after this manner, all the works of the Lord are exceeding good, and whatsoever he commandeth shall be accomplished in due season. And none may say, What is this? Wherefore is that? For at a time convenient they shall all be sought out. At his commandment the waters stood as a heap, and at the words of his mouth the receptacles of water. At his commandment is done whatsoever pleaseth him, and none can hinder when he will save. The works of all flesh are before him, and nothing can be hid from his eyes. He seeth from everlasting to everlasting, and there is nothing wonderful before him. A man need not to say, What is this? Why is that? For he hath made all things for their uses. His blessing covered the dry land as a river, and watered it as a flood. As he hath turned the waters into saltness, so shall the heathen inherit his wrath. As his ways are plain unto the holy, so are they stumbling blocks unto the wicked. For the good are good things created from the beginning, so evil things for sinners. The principal things for the whole use of man's life are water, fire, iron and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, the blood of the grape, oil, and clothing. All these things are for good to the godly, so to the sinners they are turned into evil. There be spirits that are created for vengeance, which in their fury lay on sore strokes. In the time of destruction they pour out their force, and appease the wrath of him that made them. Fire and hail, and famine and death, all these were created for vengeance. Teeth of wild beasts and scorpions, serpents and the sword, punishing the wicked to destruction. They shall rejoice in his commandment, and they shall be ready upon earth when need is. And when their time is come, they shall not transgress his word. Therefore, from the beginning I was resolved and thought upon these things, and have left them in writing. All the works of Jehovah Allah are good, and he will give every needful thing in due season, so that a man cannot say, This is worse than that. For in time they shall all be well approved. And therefore praise ye Jehovah Allah with the whole heart and mouth, and bless the name of Allah Yahweh. And once again, that was the wisdom of Yeshua bin Sirach, the son of Sirach, also known as Ecclesiasticus. I do want to note that we have heard in the very beginning about a wise man who will keep the meditation in the law, and he will give his heart to resort early and pray and make supplication for his sins. And I want to make note of that because it's important that this person they described who's in meditation and occupied in the law of the Lord sins, still makes mistakes, still has to ask for forgiveness. Nobody's perfect. And I also wanted to make mention a little bit of promotion here. We do have being occupied in the meditation of the law. Stay on the lookout for writing that I've put together by the grace of God called Meditation Times 10. And it's a guide to meditation the way the good Lord prescribes us to meditate and suggests that we meditate. And that's going to be out pretty soon. It's going to be free. You're going to be able to find it on Facebook, YouTube. I'll probably even do a video and read it out and point it out. Yeah, it'll be a PDF. If you want it, send an email or send a message, and I'll send you the PDF. And you can print it out yourself. Nothing like holding something in your hand, a paper copy, especially when it comes to mystical, spiritual things like meditation. Holding I know it's kind of contradictory in a way, but there's nothing like holding a copy of it in your hand to get that mystical feeling, that spiritual feeling. Don't ask me why it works like that, but it kind of does. But that said, stay on the lookout for that. And then we were told also that these good things, we said the blood of the grape and the oil, most of the substances that are deemed illegal under the scheduling of the federal government that we call drugs are either alcohol distillates or oils, cocoa oil, THC, hemp oil, you name it. Those are all basically oils. Now, this particular thing is about olive oil, but apparently you can get a buzz off of that too if you drink it enough. And the blood of grape, they're referring to wine. In moderation, the Lord created all these things for our use, for our benefit. Again, line 27, all these things are good to the godly. But for the sinner, it turns to evil. It will not be a benefit to them. It'll be a curse, in other words. So, in moderation, and all the good people do good things, bad people do bad things. The drug or the alcohol doesn't change that. You're not going to do a drug, you're not going to inject crystal meth and then go murder somebody brutally if it's not already in you. You're not going to do you're not going to do a shot of heroin and go out and rob from your family or from your friends or from your neighbor if you don't already have the heart of a thief in you. So you need to understand that nothing you do, nothing you put in your body is going to turn you evil. It's the things that you do that make you evil. It's already in there. So for a good person, these things can be used to your benefit. This is what the doctors do all the time. This is what psychologists do all the time. Most of the psychotropic medicines they give people with, mental health disorders and emotional disorders are just souped up generic versions of the Lord's natural plants, the Lord's natural chemicals. They're just synthetic versions of cocaine, synthetic versions of THC, synthetic versions of everything. Those people understand the virtue of this stuff. And when used right with a person that's got a good heart, it's going to be a benefit. When used improperly, it's not going to be a benefit, no matter whether you're using the synthetic version or the natural. So that said, let's go and get into the final reading, our reading from the Gospel according to St. Mark. As I mentioned earlier in the show, there was a woman who had a plague of blood and an issue of her blood. It doesn't say what, like it was maybe she hit menopause. It doesn't really, and she really wanted to menstruate again. It doesn't really, maybe she was tired of menstruating and just wanted to stop. We're not really sure. I mean, it does say that it was dried up. So, maybe she was just sick of menstruating. Probably not. It was probably something a little more serious than that. But the fact is, she came to Jesus and was healed. And that was on the way to find another little girl who had fallen over dead and was supposed and believed to be dead. They were at her wake, and Jesus went to the wake and woke her. So talk about the irony there. That's the Lord's sense of humor right there. She's not dead, but sleepeth. This is awake, right? I love it. So that said, the next chapter here is chapter 6, right? Where are we at? 6? Did I skip a chapter yesterday? I probably did. Let's see. I think I did. How did I do that? Well, I guess it was the Lord's plan anyway. So we're going to go back and we're going to go back where we left off. Yeah, I don't know how I did that. I must have looked at the wrong thing. But we are at chapter 6 then. So I skipped ahead. And so now that almost makes everything I said about the physician being invalid. Yeah, well, it happens. Either way, I know it was the Lord. And that's that. So let's get into this. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful, the book of the gospel according to St. Mark. Yeah, I got to stop and apologize because really it wasn't really the latest example of the gospel reflecting the rest of the book. I'm only a human being here, and I got a calendar that I have to glance back over at and see where we're at here. And I must have looked at the 8 somewhere. I don't know where the fuck I got an 8 from yesterday, but I got an 8, and that's how I read, and I skipped ahead. Yeah, it happens. Like I said, nobody's perfect, but don't let that distract you from the. If you can count numbers, you can count and tell me where we are. And yeah, do me a favor. If you see me reading out of order, fucking tell me, for Christ's sake. You're just gonna let me read that the whole time, not even telling me, like, hey, you skipped a chapter. Jesus, help us all. That said, we're going to go back to where we actually left off, which is chapter 6. Or maybe it was chapter 5. What happened? There was the demoniac with the legion. That's where we last read, right? Did we read that part? Oh wait, no. No, never mind. What the fuck? No, never mind. So I got to apologize for that apology. It wasn't even necessary. And I guess that brings to mind a good point. A lot of times we're forced or coerced to apologize for things that really needed no apology. Take, for instance, what we just mentioned about drugs and alcohol. A lot of people who don't have any kind of problem or any kind of addiction have been made to be feeling guilty because they've indulged in alcohol here or there. They've been demonized, is the term we use. A lot of people have been demonized for no real good reason, to the point where they feel that they need to apologize for things that need no apology at all, such as drinking a little alcohol here or there, or even experimentation with illicit drugs. They feel that they've committed some kind of great sin, and the fact of the matter is the Lord made these things for our benefit. No apology needed. Now, if you've gone to excess and in that excess hurt others, you know what I mean, and let yourself go, that's a different story. But just simple human nature to experiment, or the desire to let loose one night and have a drink, doesn't make you a bad person, doesn't make you a sinner, doesn't make you an unsalvageable demon. No apology necessary. Just like I didn't really need to apologize for mixing up the chapters, because I actually didn't. I don't know how that happened there, but I must have looked at it wrong. So anyway, we are at chapter 6, and we did leave off with the girl being healed, and we are going to get right back into chapter 6. So here we go. But that said, though, that is true. Like, if you do see me reading something out of order here, please tell me. If you have a question with the way I read something as to why I read it that way, please tell me, because I do insert the word Jehovah where there's all capitals Lord, and I do switch things around. I do exchange the word want for the word lack oftentimes, like I did earlier in the show. And if you have a question about that, or it offends you somehow, let me know. And it's not really necessarily going to change what the Lord told me to do, but hopefully I can give you a satisfactory explanation to where it's not such an offense anymore. But let's get into the gospel now. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The book of the gospel according to Saint Mark the Apostle, chapter 6. I'm sorry. Then now I need an apology, because Mark was not an apostle. So now this is just getting out of control here, Lord. Please help me. Please, please direct my lips and my words and what's going on here. Mark was not an apostle. So let's start again. In the name of Jehovah Allah, most gracious, most merciful. The book of the gospel according to Saint Mark, chapter 6. And he went out from thence, and came into his own country, and his disciples follow him. And when the Sabbath day was come, he began to teach in the synagogue. And many hearing him were astonished, saying, From whence hath this man these things? And what wisdom is this which is given unto him, that even such mighty works are wrought by his hands? Is not this the carpenter, the son of Mary, the brother of James and Joses and of Judah and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they were offended at him. But Jesus said unto them, A prophet is not without honor, but in his own country, and among his own kin, and in his own house. And he could there do no mighty work, save that he laid his hands upon a few sick folk, and healed them. And he marveled because of their unbelief. And he went round about the villages teaching. And he called unto him the 12, and began to send them forth by 2 and 2, and gave them power over unclean spirits, and commanded them that they should take nothing on their journey, save a staff only, no scrip, no bread, no money in their purse, but be shod with sandals, and not put on 2 coats. And he said unto them, In what place soever ye enter into an house, there abide till ye depart from that place. And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you, when ye depart thence, shake off the dust under your feet for a testimony against them. Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment than for that city. And they went out and preached that men should repent. And they cast out many devils, and anointed with oil many that were sick, and healed them. And King Herod heard of him, for his name was spread abroad, and he said that John the Baptist was risen from the dead, and therefore many mighty works do show forth themselves in him. Others said that it is Elias, and others said that it is a prophet, or is one of the prophets. But when Herod heard thereof, he said, It is John whom I beheaded. He is risen from the dead. For Herod himself had sent forth and laid hold upon John, and bound him in prison for Herodias' sake, his brother Philip's wife, for he had married her. For John had said unto Herod, It is not lawful for thee to have thy brother's wife. Therefore Herodias had a quarrel against him, and would have killed him, but she could not. For Herod feared John, knowing that he was a just man, and an holy, and observed him. And when he heard him, he did many things, and heard him gladly. And when a convenient day was come, that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords, high captains, and chief estates of Galilee. And when the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced, and pleased Herod, and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, Ask me of whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. And he sware unto her, Whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee, unto the half of my kingdom. And she went forth, and said unto her mother, What shall I ask? And she said, The head of John the Baptist. And she came in straightway with haste unto the king, and asked, saying, I will that thou give me by and by in a charger the head of John the Baptist. And the king was exceeding sorry. Yet for his oath's sake, and for their sakes which sat with him, he would not reject her. And immediately the king sent an executioner, and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in the prison, and brought his head in a charger, and gave it to the damsel. And the damsel gave it to her mother. And when his disciples heard of it, they came and took up his corpse, and laid it in a tomb. And the apostles gathered themselves together unto Jesus, and told him all things, both what they had done, and what they had taught. And he said unto them, Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place, and rest for a while. For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. And they departed into a desert place by a ship privately. And the people saw them departing, and many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all cities, and outwent them, and came together unto him. And Jesus, when he came out, saw much people, and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him and said, This is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about, and into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said unto them, Give ye them to eat. And they said unto him, Shall we go and buy 200 pennyworth of bread, and give them to eat? He saith unto them, How many loaves have ye? Go and see. And when they knew, they say, 5, and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by 50s. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to the heaven and blessed, and brake the loaves, and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And the 2 fishes divided he among them all. And they did all eat, and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes. And they that did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 men. And straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship, and to go to the other side before unto Bethsaida, while he sent away the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into a mountain to pray. And when even was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. And he saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary unto them. And about the 4th watch of the night he cometh unto them, walking upon the sea, and would have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the sea, they supposed it had been a spirit, and cried out. For they all saw him, and were troubled. And immediately he talked with them, and said unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I, be not afraid. And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased. And they were sore amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. For they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. And when they had passed over, they came into the land of Gennesaret, and drew to the shore. And when they were come out of the ship, straightway they knew him, and ran through that whole region round about, and began to carry about in beds those that were sick, where they heard he was. And whithersoever he entered, into the villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought him that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. And that is the conclusion of the 6th chapter of the Gospel of Mark. That was indeed the 6th chapter. The one before it that we read yesterday was indeed the 5th chapter. So that said, a lot of things took place there. They came to him with a couple loaves of bread and a couple fish, and broke it up, and they fed all those people, and they didn't even realize it. It's not that they didn't respect it or think, they just didn't even realize what the hell happened there. They just started giving the food out, and were so excited to be feeding people, because it's a good feeling when you go and feed people that are hungry, and everybody's eating, everybody's having a good time. You get carried away. You don't even realize that you just did all that with 2 loaves of bread. So when he was walking on the water, like, it would have been a little bit softer of a blow to their mind, because it was kind of mind-blowing to see somebody walking up on the water there. It would have blown their mind less if they had been able to comprehend what just happened with the loaves. If they'd have been mindful, like, wow, I can't believe we just fed all those people with those 2 fishes, and then seen them walking, it wouldn't have been so, like, it wouldn't have been so scary. But because they didn't keep that in mind, and they didn't even really take notice of it, it blew their fucking mind watching a dude walk on the water. So, it's a miracle, and seeing miracles can be mind-blowing. I assure you that. But if you keep them in mind, it's less of a shock to the system. If you don't forget the ones that just happened, the ones that are going to happen are less of a shock to the system. Sometimes we need a shock to the system, and that's why the Lord hardens our hearts. It's why he closes our eyes sometimes, because we need that shock to the system. Other times it's not very advantageous for us to be so astounded that, like, we need a couple days to process. Sometimes we got work to do, and so we're mindful of things. But that said, that was the conclusion. I gave the warning earlier. Heed it if you're wise. Write to your politician, write to your police officers, write to your governors, write to the White House, to Donald Trump himself, and to J.D. Vance, and tell them that this is what it is. That volcano will blow, and everybody in this continent will be destroyed. You're going to make America great again just for it to be smashed to bits because of the fucking kid fuckers you leave unchecked and don't deal with while you're busy in Iran. Take the beam out of your own eye, and then maybe you'll see clearly to remove the mote from Iran's. That said, let me give you the blessing, and we can go about our Valentine's Day with love. Allah Yahweh bless thee and keep thee. Jehovah Allah cause the face to shine upon thee and be gracious toward thee. Hashem lift up the countenance upon thee and give you peace. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Stay lit, friends. God bless you.